welcome or welcome back to the Kingdom Digital Podcast. My name is Marsha. On this show, we talk all things church and ministry, online marketing. I share my experience working with churches and helping them with their online presence. So if this is something that you are interested in, I encourage you to stick around, get a subscription to the channel, and let's dive in today's topic. I want to get super practical with you today. Have you ever sat in front of a blank screen or a blank sheet of paper and asked yourself, what are we going to post for our church this week? If you have, you're definitely not alone. It happens all the time. Today, I want to share with you what content actually connects. Before we dive into the 4 categories of church content, let's read today's scripture. Romans 10:14 in the NIV, the New International Version, says, "How then can they call on the one they have not believed in? And how can they believe in the one whom they have not heard?" I love this scripture. It talks about, in our context, the fact that whatever we post online or whatever we put out in the name of the church is the way that people hear the gospel. And because of that, I really want to encourage you to be intentional with everything. Be intentional with your words, with your copy, with your wording. Be intentional with the pictures that you use, with the colors that you use, with the font, even with the timing of posting. And with timing, I don't only mean the time of the day, but also the things that are happening around us, that are happening in our city, in our country, political climates, all these kinds of things, right? We want to be a little bit of sensitive of what people are going through. And by prayer and by the leading of the Holy Spirit, serve people where they are. So that's what I mean with timing as well, not just the time of the day. All right, if you are ready to get practical, let's go. The 4 categories of church content are inspirational content, educational content, community-focused content, and invitation content. And I will go through these step by step with some examples. You'll probably see some pop up on the screen, so this is a good episode to watch on YouTube. Okay. So for inspirational content, these are your sermon reels or clips, your sermon quotes, your prayers, testimonies. And so with testimonies, I mean sharing what God is doing or has done in the lives of people, stories of healing, stories of salvation, of baptism, answered prayers. And there are many, many ways you can share this inspirational content. For example, for the worship reels, I definitely recommend taking the footage of your own worship service, of your own worship on Sunday morning or whatever you have. Don't take a stock video of someone that is not in your church. As beautiful as it might be, it's just not as authentic if it doesn't actually show the people that are in your church, the people that you can meet when you come to your church. Okay, I know that makes sense to you, but I wanted to mention that there because I do see some churches putting out, a lot of stock footage, and it doesn't connect as much. So I wanted to mention that. And then for your sermon quotes, in a previous episode, I mentioned that now you can get the transcripts of your sermons. I'm going to leave the link to the tool that I use in the description of the video, or wherever you are listening or watching. You'll find it there. And this is a really good way of doing this because then you have everything the pastor said, and you can either go through it yourself, or you can even, with the help of ChatGPT, you can upload that transcript there and give it a prompt. Give me 3 powerful quotes from this sermon from Pastor so-and-so, and it will spit out these for you. You can go through them, you can go over them, and make sure he really said that or she really said that. And then using Canva, which is my go-to tool for graphic design. I am not a graphic designer, but Canva kind of makes me feel like one. It's just so user-friendly. Even the free account is really good. Honestly, the paid account is a bit better. I think it's like $12.99 a month. It's way better. because you will also have a lot of tools in there, such as removing the background or grabbing things. I mean, it's just very intuitive. Like I said, there are a lot of templates to choose from. And so you take the words that you have with the quote and you put that into a beautiful, a beautiful background, whatever your vibe is. If you like nature, you can do some mountains or a sunrise or a sunset. If you're more urban, there's a ton of stock footage, a ton of stock pictures, photos on Canva that you can use for this, okay? So that's the second kind of inspirational post. And then we have prayers. So whatever prayers you have, maybe you have a sermon series that you are in right now that has a topic that you can use to create short prayers, put them either in writing on a graphic or even in video form. Again, there is really good templates on Canva that you can use to put the words in a video form. So there's a nice video running in the background. It's very pleasing to the eye. So that will create some engagement and will encourage people, online. And then we have the testimonies. Those are honestly the strongest connectors and also inspirers, those pieces of content, especially baptism. If you have footage of your baptism, make sure to make some kind of recap video of it or a carousel. I believe on Instagram you can now have 20 pictures. You don't have to do as many. That's a lot. You can do 5 or whatever you want, and you can swipe through them. Carousels are just a really nice form of content, in my opinion, because they're very shareable. So there are those that only have pictures and maybe a music behind it. And there are those that have sort of a mini sermon or mini tutorial, 3 prayers you can pray over your kids this week, and then you can swipe through it, things like that. So that's your inspirational content. And there are really no rules to your creativity. Again, Canva is my go-to. If you already have your branding elements, you can upload them there. You can create a branding kit inside of Canva, so you always have them handy and just play around with it. Make sure you are consistent with your branding. So agree on your look, your feel ahead of time, and then you can even save some of these templates to use again and again. All right, so that's your inspirational content. Drop some comments or questions if you have more questions about that type of content. Our second category is the educational content. Now, this is also really interesting because this is sort of like your FAQs of the church. So this can be, what does the church believe in? What do we stand for? What are we standing on? So your beliefs, you can put that in either a video form or a text form. And then also the carousel posts that I mentioned, they are really good for educational content. What I do for one of my clients is that I take the sermon and I create those carousel posts, the educational posts out of the sermon. So with the help of ChatGPT, I get a couple of topics that I could create a reel on. A carousel on. And I take the best one, the one that really resonates with me or that I would know that would resonate with people. And I create maybe a 5-slide carousel with that. And again, there are super nice templates on Canva that you can use for this. I'm going to put a couple on the screen so you can see. And this is really good for educational content. And what I mean by that, for example, is 3 lessons from Gideon. You can have a 5-slide carousel. So the first one is the cover. The next 3 are the 3 lessons. You can put numbers on them and dress them up in your branding colors. And then the last slide is a call to action. If you have enjoyed this post, share it with a friend or write in the comments, what do you think about these? Something like that. Have a CTA, have your website on there at the bottom, and then have really good copy as well. Remember, we want to be intentional, okay? The theme of today is being intentional with our online presence and with our content. All right, let's go over to the next one. We have community-focused content. This is my absolute favorite. It is so much fun because your creativity really has no limits. Okay, I'm going to mention a couple of community-focused content pieces that really work very well. The first one is the behind-the-scenes content, and it can be literally anything. I mentioned in a couple of videos earlier that you can do a choir rehearsal or a worship rehearsal behind the scenes, but it can really be anything. So, for example, your pastor, he can just grab his phone and maybe do a little office tour or do a bookshelf tour and share what he's reading right now. You can also have some B-roll of your pastor preparing for the sermon or praying, things like that. So people really love a behind the scenes peek, and this just shows that you are real people, that you are a real community, that you are authentic. So that's the really good, I would say, best type of community content. All right. The next one is photos of events or recaps of events. Honestly, event recaps really connect as well because you can kind of see the fun that was had, and it kind of makes you want to join the next one. A little tip here is that, as I said, let's be intentional with the pictures that we use, or with the B-roll, and B-roll is just video in the background that we use. For example, if you want to have a diverse church, you need to use pictures that display diverse people, because people click on people. And what I mean by that is people always click on content that displays the kind of people that mirror them, that look like them. And we do this subconsciously. This happens in the back of our brains somewhere where we don't even notice it, okay? So make sure you have diversity in your pictures in your videos, whatever you use. Yeah, and then volunteer highlights, small groups. If you have a Bible study group, a women's fellowship, a men's fellowship, a youth. Right now it's summer break as I'm recording this, so there's a lot of VBS going on. So that's something you can also share. So behind the scenes is always great. And then outreach. I shared in a previous episode that one of my clients had a gas giveaway, which was super cool. Another one had, for Christmas time, they gave away gifts. Oh, and for Thanksgiving, they gave away turkeys. So things like this can really connect when you see real people connecting with each other. I got one more fun one for community content that just came to mind. That's a true or false post. So you take a statement that is sort of controversial, and you can say, for example, pineapple pizza is the best pizza ever. Okay. And that's pretty controversial. Probably everyone, if you say something like pepperoni pizza is the best, you will probably have more people agree than people with pineapple pizza. So my point is that take a statement that is kind of controversial, not too serious though, something fun like macadamia cookies are the best, and don't say chocolate chip cookies are the best, because that's probably what everyone thinks, or most people think, okay? So take something controversial. And the trick here is that we want to create more engagement. So a bunch of people are going to say, no, it's not macadamia. That is not the best. Absolutely not. It is chocolate chip or whatever. And then somebody else will say something. So there's going to be a thread of comments. There's going to be some engagement. Some people will share it, laugh about it. That's the goal, okay? To create more lighthearted fun, and also it kind of reflects back on your ministry and your church. So you can throw an invite in there or throw a CTA, comment below what you think, true or false. All right. Okay. Next we have our invitation content. These are your announcements, your service times, your event invites, your holiday services. And really with these, you want to answer the question, what is in it for me? So the person who is looking at the post, it comes along on their feed, and they want to know what is in it for them, okay? And that's the question you want to answer in a short sentence. So let's say you have a new sermon series going on about, for example, the book of Proverbs, and you're going to go through the book of Proverbs in 4, 5, 6 weeks. This is not exactly what you should mention in the post. You could rephrase it and say, do you have these questions in life? Are you asking yourself, what is the sense of life? I don't know. Why do bad things happen to good people, for example? And And, you know, that's something that somebody will feel more connected to. So use that to promote your sermon series, but then also invite people to come. So this will answer the question for them, what's in it for me? I'm going to get the answer to why do bad things happen to good people? And then also video invites are really the best performing that I see. If you can grab your camera and grab someone that is naturally good on camera, it can be the pastor, it can be a church leader, a volunteer, a Gen Zer, whoever feels good in front of the camera, just let them grab their phone and kind of talk about how they came to the ministry, how they came to the church, and what they experience on a regular basis at your church, and then throw in an invite to join this Sunday. So basically, with invitation content, you always have to remember that if you only have announcements on your feed, people are going to scroll past eventually. You need to rephrase that content into content that connects on a heart level, on a level that is personal, on a level that answers the question, what's in it for me? So just keep that in mind when you create your announcements, because I know we need to announce things. So this is part of it. It should be a small part of the pie. I would say 20%, something like that. I hope these were helpful. If you have any questions about these 4 categories of content or how to make them, put them in the comments for me or write me on any of my pages. I check those regularly and I'm happy to answer more questions. If you have any suggestions on any future episodes that you would like to see and listen to, let me know. And I want to encourage you today to check out the last 5 posts that your church made and see if you can put them in one of these categories. So that's kind of like, I don't want to say homework, but that's a suggestion for me to kind of get used to putting this content that you're creating in one of these categories. Look at your last 5 posts, see if they have that. Remember to always add a CTA, a call to action, at the end or at some point of your content. It can be on the screen, it can be in the caption. Make sure there is some kind of action that people can take after. And then also make sure that the action that they take is easy to do. So if you want them to click a button, make that button bright and centered where they can find it and don't have to look for it. And when you look at your content, just ask yourself, what category is it in and what is missing? All right, that's it from me today. I hope this episode was helpful. Leave me some comments. Make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. And please give me a review on Spotify or any other podcast platforms that you use. This really helps the algorithm to push this out to more church leaders like you, so we can do this kingdom work together. I am so excited and thankful that you are here, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye.